Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Headbanger's Closet. So this past week, my all-time favorite Megadeth record had a birthday. So Far, So Good, So What came out January 19th, 1988. When this thing came out, I was 12 years old. Very impressionable young kid. So I want to talk about why I love this record so much, why it's my favorite one, why I believe it is a little underrated in the Megadeth discography, especially in those, that 4-album 80s to early 90s run, the classic Megadeth records, why I feel it's a little underrated. But before we get into that and show you guys, the collection, kind of want to tell the story about how I get into Megadeth. And pretty much like every Dave Mustaine interview, it starts with Metallica, right? So January 19th, 1988, I was 12, like I said. I was really big into the hair bands, watching MTV all the time. Motley Crue, Poison, Def Leppard, Dawkins, Rat, Cinderella, those are my favorite bands. But I was into Metallica. By the time this record came out, I was into Metallica. I had a good buddy of mine that was, into basically all the bands I was into. Throw Van Halen and AC/DC in that mix as well. And he had been playing me Metallica for the last year or two. Puppets, Ride the Lightning, Kill 'Em All, just songs off that. He had like a little cassette tape. He put his favorite Metallica tunes on, and I'd hang out at his house. We'd go skateboarding or play Nintendo, whatever, and hang out. And he'd play that amongst a bunch of other stuff that we were listening to at the time. And I liked Metallica, just wasn't like a huge fan. Well, that all changed when he came over one day and brought the Garage Days Revisited, the 598 EP on cassette. I thought it was awesome. And he made me a cassette tape, a cassette tape copy of it. Played it all the time. Over the course of the next, 7, 8, 9 months, I was able to take my allowance and buy the Metallica discography on cassette tape and vinyl up until that point. And I was really dug it. I was kind of shocked. I was listening to an Into's, a little bit heavier stuff than the hair bands. Metallica did not have Justice for All, hadn't come out yet, so there's no video. So it was kind of rare to see what the guys looked like other than the album, artwork and, what was inside the cassette tapes and vinyl records and stuff like that, the sleeves and everything. So anyway, one day we're hanging out at school and I noticed, if you guys are old like me and your mom used to cover your books with the grocery bag, the brown grocery bags, we always used to write our favorite bands on there. And he had Megadeth on there. And I was like, well, who's Megadeth? And he's like, well, Megadeth's a band, Metallica broke up. And half the guys stayed Metallica and kept going. The other half of the guys joined Megadeth, and Megadeth was born. I was like, I thought that was cool. It's not like now where we know the story of what really happened, and there was no kind of thoughts and dispositions about why or what band we might like more. I just thought it was cool that, oh wow, half the guys broke off from Metallica. Now we have another band called Megadeth. Pretty cool. So I was like, what songs do they have? And he started telling me. I didn't know anything, so. Never heard of them before. So fast forward a few months or whatever, don't really remember how long, but I was in the same record store and I was leafing through the records, and there it is, Megadeth. Peace Sells, but Who's Buying? The Vic Rattlehead guy with the sign and the 2 fighter jets swooping in on an already blown up city. Thought it was a really, really cool album cover. Picked it up, looked at the back, thought it was awesome. The next record behind it was this one. So Far, So Good, So What? And I see the album cover. It's this dude right here with the world in the background. And my 12-year-old brain, right? All I can think of is this dude's the leader of this alien undead army, and they're about to invade Earth in this end of the world, War of the Worlds kind of scenario. And that just really kind of took off in my brain, and I had to have this record. So I don't know how long afterwards I was able to save up and I get the cassette tape and played it, Into the Lungs of Hell, Set the World Afire. That 1-2 punch on side 1 blew me away with guitar work. Sounded different than Metallica, right? It wasn't as heavy, but it was way faster, right? And I really dug it. Became a Megadeth fan. It took me a really long time, years later, to get the rest of the discography, which brings me to my next point. When listening to this, and I think I might have mentioned this in another video, when listening to this, I really thought this was their second record. I knew Killing Them Is My Business and Business Is Good was their first. But listening to this one and then Peace Sells, but Who's Buying, it just kind of sounds like this one is way less produced, doesn't sound as polished. I thought this was their second record. I mean, we're talking years later, I'm thinking this, maybe high school age, around that time. Kind of around the time I actually bought this, because I bought this and Peace Sells at the same time, the 2 CDs. when I went to high school. So anyway, love the record. Like I said, first 2 songs out the gate, Into the Lungs of Hell and Set the World Afire, just amazing tunes. Anarchy in the UK was awesome cover tune. Mary Jane's super cool. Flip over to side 2, you got 502. Listened to that in high school, driving around town, and every time we saw a cop with somebody in our car, we'd be like, pull over, shithead, this is the cops. Just like the beginning of that song. In My Darkest Hours, awesome. One of their best tunes. And then Liar's cool, and my all-time favorite Megadeth song is Hook and Mouth, close out the record. Megadeth's one of those bands that, it seems like every album, they had different guys in the band, like Rust in Peace, Peace Elsby was buying, you got Chris Poland and Gar Samuelson, guitar and drums respectively. This one, you got Jeff Young on guitar and Chuck Beller on drums. I couldn't, at that age, I couldn't tell, and you still really can't. It's got Dave Mustaine and David Ellefson. That's all you really need to make it Megadeth, right? Those are the 2 dudes. That's Megadeth, really. Everybody else is interchangeable. And it wasn't until Rust in Peace that they kind of got a somewhat, steady lineup of the same dudes for a handful of records, right? But I just love this album, dude. It's, like I said, it's not very produced. It sounds like a second record. I love that raw, early 80s thrash sound, the underproduced, the just aggression to it. And, Peace Elsby, Who's Buying, had that. But there's some way that this thing sounds, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just because this is where I jumped online with the band. I'm biased, and that's why it's my favorite Megadeth album. But it just reminds me of, Metallica's Kill 'Em All. It reminds me of, Slayer's first couple of records. The first 3 Slayer albums, in my opinion, kind of sound that way. That raw aggression and that vibe you got before they just blew up and got super huge and could afford this, awesome production team, right? But I totally dig this thing. Absolutely love it. And what's awesome? This is, like I said, it's the 3rd record. Sounds like the 2nd. Can't say that enough. But the 2nd tune, Set the World Afire. The line in the song is the arsenal of Megadeth. Well, everybody knows now when Dave was fired from Metallica, they put him on a Greyhound bus cross country, and he's writing, coming up with, he's like, I'm going to start my new band. It's going to be better than them and all that shit. And, dude, look, super happy he did. It's awesome. Good for him for being able to do that. But this is the 3rd record. The shit he wrote on that bus ride home is on the 3rd friggin' Megadeth record. So he's writing material that would have ended up being on the first 3 albums. And the line in the song, The Arsenal of Megadeth, came from a Time magazine cover with Ronald Reagan on it. And that's Ronald Reagan's quote, about the Cold War, the nuclear arms race, the arsenal of Megadeth. I think that's really cool that Dave was way more political than I think anybody else at that point in time in thrash metal. It wasn't until maybe later in the 80s when Metallica came out with Justice that they really got more political. But Megadeth was doing it from the get-go. So I think that's really cool. So here's the reissue. Oh, let's go with the CD first. The CD I got in high school, Capitol Records. Combat Capitol Records, and I don't remember where I got this, but this is the CD I got. I picked up this one, Killing Is My Business, and Peace Sells all at the same time at a place called Ann and Hope in Central Falls, Rhode Island. So this is the reissue on vinyl. Capitol Records right here, pretty cool. And on the OG, this is the sleeve right here, but this they just kind of give a separate card for this. There's a picture of the guys in the band and lyrics. Here's my OG copy. Still got the hype sticker on it right there. Lyrics may be considered offensive to some audiences. There's the price tag right there. It's faded. I really can't read what the price was. So here's the sleeve. The record's in it. I don't want to pull it out because it's split on 2 of the 3 ends, but the same as before. There's the guys in the band, the lyrics. Same record on Capitol Records. Try not to mess with it too much just because it is ripped on 2 of the 3 sides of the sleeve. So I don't really listen to this one. In fact, I can't remember the last time I actually listened to this one. I just kind of keep it put up because it's my OG copy. It's quite expensive. So if it gets ruined, I got to shell out like $100-something bucks to get another one. So yeah, can't say enough about this album. Good buddy James thinks it's their best. I put a photo of this on my Instagram page on January 19th, as well as Twitter, so I kind of got the conversation going about it. Some people say it's their best, James in particular. A lot of people say it's their favorite, but still, I think this, if you put it up in the Peace Sells, So Far So Good So What, and Rust in Peace, I think a lot of people would have it third. Like I said, it could be because it's the first one I got, came online with the band, and why it's sentimental to me, why it's my favorite, but I just think it sounds just like what I want and what I love about my early 80s thrash metal bands. So anyway, what do you guys think about the album? Where do you rank it in those three big Megadeth records? Leave me a comment below, hit the like, subscribe, and all that shit. Go find me on Instagram. I do my best to follow everybody back on that platform as best I can. Always posting pictures of my collection and stuff like that, and really like talking to you guys on that as well, and see what you guys have in your collection as well. So anyway, hope you dig the video. Appreciate everybody watching, and I'll have another video for you guys very soon. Cheers, guys.